let's turn away from the politics dominating our headlines and make Colorado's homeless families our lead story tonight. You know as well as the experts do that skyrocketing rental prices aren't helping that situation. Our Ryan Hare helps bust through the common stereotype of the single homeless man, because homelessness is a family issue.
Times when people think of homelessness, they think of maybe a single man on the side of the street asking for money or, smelling of alcohol.
It's an obvious conclusion. Men out on the street are the most visible face of homelessness. As the light of day fades, many of them will avoid a shelter. But when you have kids, darkness weighs heavy.
I wouldn't settle for that. My kids are not going to sleep under a tarp. No.
Crystal Loco and her 2 kids have been living in the basement of this church for weeks, thanks to a group called Family Promise, which helps homeless families get back on their feet.
For someone that doesn't have any family or any connections in Colorado, it's like a second family, because I don't have anyone, and now I feel like I have a support system.
Crystal's lucky. She found a place for her kids to eat and sleep for a few weeks.
We get, I would say on average, 10 to 15, even 20 calls a day of families who are in need. And on a week like this week, when we have no openings, we have to say no to each and every one of those families.
Allie Card is the executive director of Family Promise. She says nearly half of the households experiencing homelessness right now are households with kids. That's thousands of homeless children in the metro area.
The price of housing, I would say, is the biggest reason that we see families coming into our shelter.
But I think bottom was when I didn't know where we were going to go.
Crystal couldn't afford the $1,100 a month roof over her kids' heads anymore.
Because they depend on you for everything, and it's like you let them down. It's like a total letdown to them, and that's the worst feeling to a mother, is to let your kids down.
Thanks to Family Promise, the threat of night no longer seems so daunting for her.
God has definitely blessed me with a second opportunity to do amazing things. I'm definitely not going to let them down.
For other parents, tonight's home remains a mystery.
And part of this issue, Ryan, is getting a firm handle on the number of homeless families, the number of homeless kids in Colorado.
It's a tough thing to measure because homeless people are so spread out. There is a survey that happens every year. It's called the Point in Time Survey that homeless advocates often point to. It doesn't really get to the heart of the children. I think a better number would be a survey that the State Department of Education puts out every year. They ask public schools to monitor the number of homeless kids in their districts. That number this year, 24,000. That is triple what it was a decade ago. It's a huge number.
Astonishing number. And we think about people being turned away from shelters and then what options those families have.
And it's often a choice for single men to stay outside, and they often do. Those families, parents, they don't feel like they have a choice. They want to make sure their kids are staying under a roof. They are finding places like church basements to do that.
Very eye-opening. Ryan, thank you so much.
You got it.
Your ballot should arrive in the mail later this week. And when you get to the amendments and the propositions, please don't vote all yes or all no just for the hell of it. And yes, no, yes, no, yes, no is not any smarter. Tonight, 9 News is airing an hour-long debate on the issues. If you don't have 60 minutes, here's the speed version, 60 seconds. Colorado's ballot issues in 60 seconds. Amendment 69, Colorado Care, state-run universal health care. Yes.
If they're for universal health care, this is the way to get there.
No.
And levies an enormous new tax that all Coloradans would pay.
Amendment 70, raise the minimum wage. Yes.
Raising the wage for low-wage workers is an economic driver.
No.
You're actually unfairly harming rural communities and small businesses.
Amendment 71, make it harder to amend the state constitution. Yes.
If you want to change the Constitution, our foundational document, you should have to demonstrate a little more support.
No.
This is the one tool that the people have when the legislature is not responsive.
Amendment 72, raise the tobacco tax. Yes.
So it's about keeping our kids from starting smoking in the first place.
The no side didn't show. Prop 106, physician-assisted suicide. Yes.
And they want this option to control the manner and the timing and the way that they die.
No.
It does not protect people from abuse, coercion, and fraud.
Props 107 and 108 replace caucuses with primaries open to unaffiliated voters. Yes.
This has been tried. The caucus isn't broken.
No.
About 1 out of every 20 voters got to participate in the caucus.
And now you know a little. All right, that was actually 76 seconds. We hope that you'll watch the ballot question debate tonight at 7 on Channel 20. At the very least, please share that quick explainer with your friends. You'll find it on the next Facebook page. Among the Coloradans who might refuse to vote in this presidential election is a man named Michael Coffman from Aurora, better known as Republican Congressman Mike Coffman. Coffman hedged for the longest time on whether he would support his party's nominee, Donald Trump. After the tape of Trump bragging about sexually assaulting women came out, Coffman officially refused to get on the Trump train and now finds himself standing in the middle of nowhere.
I'm not going to vote for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, and I'm struggling with it like many other Americans as to what to do now.
Are you going to vote in the race?
I don't know.
You don't know if you'll cast a vote?
I don't know if I'll cast a vote for president.
Coffman's Democratic opponent, Morgan Carroll, who was on Next yesterday, wants voters to see Trump and Coffman as essentially one and the same. Here's how Coffman tries to frame the choice for voters in the suburbs that make up the 6th congressional.
The fundamental question in this race is really that we're not going to decide who's going to be president. We are going to decide potentially who's going to be the next Speaker of the House. Is Paul Ryan going to stay Speaker of the House, or is Nancy Pelosi going to be the Speaker of the House? And you know, do we return to the what Morgan Carroll would call the good old days, where Democrats had all the levers of power in Washington, D.C., and they were crammed through things like Obamacare without a single Republican vote?
It sounds like you're expecting the Senate to go Democratic, and that you're expecting Hillary Clinton to win, and that the House is the last Republican holdout.
Could happen.
In just a bit, I'll ask Congressman Coffman if he contributed to the rise of Donald Trump when he joined him in questioning President Obama's birthplace and legitimacy. And Coffman's been accused of changing his position on immigration reform. He'll shortly tell us exactly where he stands. Trump is back again. 2 stops in Colorado today, Colorado Springs and Grand Junction. His running mate Mike Pence will be in Durango tomorrow night as Trump and Clinton debate for the final time on television. We'll soon be seeing people wearing those I voted stickers and I voted social media profile pictures. But some of those people are total posers.
So there are these 2 sides. There's the positive, I want to be included, I want to be in the group of people who does their civic duty, and then there's the negative side. I don't want to be the person who doesn't do that. I don't want to have that public shame. That negative side may come out a little bit more in this particular election when people aren't super thrilled about either of the major candidates. So that, you know, you may see the sticker and be like, oh, I really don't want to vote, but I don't want to be the doofus who doesn't. So I'm going to go do it, and I'm going to get my sticker, and then I don't have to be humiliated.
There is no shame in the game of Colorado's most watched piece of public transportation today. Is the A-line working? You know it is. So we will refrain from disdain for the train to the plane. New numbers may restrain those prone to complain. RTD's CEO said today that the A-line has an average daily on-time performance of 87%. He told us on Next months ago that he'd really like to see it up in the mid-90s, comparable with RTD's light rail system. So we'll keep doing our part with some tongue-in-cheek encouragement by checking in on the A-line from time to time. So people complain about planes too, you know, noise complaints specifically, and they tend to come from the same citizens over and over again. A think tank at George Mason University reviewed the numbers nationwide, including at DIA. Few people are making most of the noise about the noise at DIA. There were 4,800 noise complaints last year. One single guy in Strasburg was responsible for 73% of the calls. He called nearly 10 times a day on average. His name isn't listed in the reports, but we know that he lives about 30 miles from the airport. This is wild. 96% of the noise complaints about DIA came from just 4 people. 96%. The same holds true in other cities. The vast majority of noise complaints came from just a few people in D.C., Las Vegas, and L.A. George Mason University's Marcatus Center says policymakers should really think before rushing to make airport changes based on the volume of noise complaints. And we actually do the same thing here at Next. We only count the first angry email you sent. Partly cloudy and mild for days, a scintillating week in weather. If you don't want to get off your apps and check the 9 News weather app for details now, forecast is next. We asked Congressman Mike Coffman if his own flirtation with birtherism helped Donald Trump rise to prominence.
I thought it was a private conversation that was happening. It was taped.
You're speaking on stage with a microphone.
That's no excuse. That's no excuse.
And a sign you're entering a different kind of town.
Hi there, welcome back. A little snow in the forecast. Okay, not down here, way up high, such as in Rocky Mountain National Park. Beautiful conditions up there, and another 2, maybe 6 inches of snow coming in with a weak little weather system that'll travel across the state tonight. Average date of the first snowfall for Denver is tomorrow, October 19th. We don't see that in our forecast. There's no snow coming. Maybe, just maybe, a brief rain shower overnight tonight with the passage of that front and cooler air. Our high temperature today at 65 is right about where we should be for this time of year. And as we notice on the regional radar and satellite composite, there is a little snow already moving into the northern mountains, but moisture with this system is pretty short-lived and not overly abundant. So you'll notice the cool down more than anything else. No winter weather or travel advisories to speak of. And really overnight tonight is our best chance at seeing any moisture across the state. There will be a few clouds around the area, and that's something that we'll be dealing with during the early morning hours. But by midday tomorrow, lots of sunshine. Look for temperatures tonight to be above freezing in the mid-30s with partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, we've got sunshine with temperatures in the afternoon cooler than today in the upper 50s. It's tomorrow night when skies clear, we drop below freezing to around 30 degrees. But we've got a nice temperature trend for the rest of the week into the weekend with temperatures in the 70s for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Beautiful conditions way up high. Sometimes look past the trees. You might see a waterfall or maybe some of our four-legged friends.
Kathy, thanks. The attack ads running in Colorado's most competitive congressional race don't mention that Congressman Mike Coffman backtracked and apologized when he questioned President Obama's birthplace and legitimacy 4 years ago. But perhaps the damage was done. Perhaps we're just realizing it. We discussed that today. My question is, did you and other elected Republicans who kind of flirted with this birther nonsense help put Donald Trump on the map?
No.
No responsibility at all?
None.
Why do you say that?
Well, first of all, I was wrong. It was boneheaded. I said thought it was a private conversation that I was having. It was taped.
You're speaking on stage with a microphone.
That's no excuse. That's no excuse. It was to a private group. It was not a public event. But that's no excuse.
Okay.
I said I was wrong. And so I've never taken that position publicly.
So you didn't give any cover to the TV personality, Donald Trump, who was saying this because you were Mike Coffman, elected representative?
No.
You don't see any tie between them?
No.
Okay. Population of people living in Colorado illegally is a bit smaller than the population of the city of Aurora. It would be the 3rd largest city in the state, bigger than Fort Collins. What's the path to legal status for those people?
I think we need to go to a system that where we have tough enforcement, where if you're here illegally, you're going to be deported. But the question is, we've had this lax system for so long. We've had basically de facto amnesty for a long time. We've had people that have been here for a very long time, haven't violated any laws other than immigration laws. My sympathies are really with the children. The children that were taken here when they were young, who grew up here, who really know of no other country. And I've introduced co-sponsored legislation that would give them a path to permanent residency based on education, work history, military service.
That's for the children brought here.
For the children.
Well, what about the adult
for the adults, I think for the adults, what I would like to see is to give them a period of time to come out of the shadows. And if they haven't, as long as they haven't violated criminal laws, to give them a legalized status that would allow them to work here without fear of deportation.
Not citizenship, but legal status.
Legal status.
Any path to citizenship for those people?
No, no. But I don't want to box myself in. If we get into negotiations and there's everything that I like, and it would be a very long path and very selective. I don't want to totally back myself. But ideally, I would say no.
Congressman Mike Coffman, thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Our full 20-minute conversation with Congressman Coffman is up on our YouTube page. That's where you'll find yesterday's discussion with his Democratic challenger, Morgan Carroll. They debate on our air Thursday night, 7 p.m. on Channel 20. I'll moderate alongside politics guy Brandon Rittiman. In this heated election season, tips on how to handle political disagreements from the newspaper editors facing death threats. And if you're ready to give up and move to Canada, we have tips on that, too. Politics this year has people and papers making unusual choices. The Arizona Republic endorsed a Democrat over a Republican for the first time in its 125-year history. Picked Hillary Clinton. Some readers responded thoughtfully. Others sent in death threats. Quote, "You're dead. "Watch your back. We will burn you down." And "You should be put in front of a firing squad as a traitor." The president of Republic Media, Mia Parrish, says the Republic's editorial board knew it would be a big deal when they went Clinton over Trump, but as they wrote yesterday, the board feels it chose patriotism over party. And now the nastiness and the threats is slowly being supplanted by something interesting: kindness.
You know, we're used to getting grumpy messages, nasty messages, you know, whether we're doing something like this or not. And so it's one of the reporters stopped me and said, you know, it's old hat that we get. You know, he's like, I'm sort of used to it. And I guess it's part of the course when we get grumpy messages. He said it's just been so amazing to hear from people all around the country, all around the world.
We like how the Arizona Republic rolls, not because of who they picked this year. We'd be equally proud of a liberal newspaper that broke ranks to endorse a Republican. It's that they're not afraid to be different, and they stand by their work.
No matter how this election turns out, I'm moving to Canada. Okay, I'm not. But haven't you heard that a lot this election cycle? We figured we'd put together an FAQ in case any of you actually plan to move there. Canadians are friendly, but they just won't let you become a citizen overnight. Oh, it's a lot tougher than that, you hoser. First things first, you have to apply to be a permanent resident, which requires you spend at least 2 years out of 5 in Canada. It's even tougher to become a citizen. You have to have been a permanent resident in Canada for 6 years leading up to your citizenship application. And follow me here. In that time, you have to have been physically present in the country for at least 1,460 days, including at least 183 days in 4 separate calendar years. Did you get all that? Oh, and you either need to speak English or parlez-vous français, which is one of the only things I remember from my 6 years of French. And you have to take a test on how much you know about the Canadian way of life, which should be a lot, seeing that you've lived there for 6 years. You should probably also know about poutine, a Canadian delicacy made of fries, cheese curds, and gravy. It's good. Oh yeah, and their dollar coins are loonies, and $2 coins, 2 knees. That's change you can count on. You also want to make sure you have a wide variety of clothing. You know, those Canadian winters can be a little rough, eh?
I see what you did there, don't you?
Yeah, you like that?
This is terrible. This is just Minnesota from both of us.
It really is.
Colorado small towns have some real character. Sometimes you can even tell from the moment you roll into town. That's next. It's a sign. Linda Harris sent us a photo of a sign in Snowmass Village. It lists the year the town was established, the elevation, and the population, and then they total them all up at the bottom. How exactly does that add up? Town of Snowmass says the sign has been up since the 60s, before Snowmass Village was even a town.
I guess you could kind of call it an inside joke. I think the locals get it. And guests that probably visit us for a weekend or whatever kind of do a double take and scratch their heads and wonder if it's for real, maybe even check our math a little bit. But yeah, we definitely have a sense of humor here, and we're kind of a casual, laid-back community, and I think the sign reflects that.
They're having to relocate the sign because they're putting in a new roundabout. The city says that the population is accurate for the 2010 census, but they may need to redo the elevation in case they move it up the hill just a little bit. Your feedback now. Adrian McLean says, thanks for breaking down the ballot issues in 60 seconds. Sometimes the language on the ballot seems quirky. Full special, 7 p.m. on Channel 20 tonight. Linda Rosales, boo Kyle, feeding answers to Coffman to make him look better. I don't watch 9 News anymore because of your bias. Wait, how do you see tonight's segment? You should watch next time to see if I'm biased too.